Hello, new followers.
Hello.
A lot of people have been subscribing to us. I guess they're subscribers on YouTube rather than followers. But I am McKay.
I'm Jordan.
And this is our YouTube channel. It's just a little extra way for that we could do some more long form content, and it offers way more options as far as what we could do than our TikTok does. But anyway, we were most recently on the Dad Challenge podcast, so if you were
That's why so many of you are here, and we're so grateful for you.
That's what we love to hear. Yeah.
Thanks for hanging out.
So what are we going to do today?
So today, this is my brainchild of an idea that came to me in the middle of the night. So today we're going to kind of look at the differences between men and women in the church, and kind of in the Mormon church, and how like the expectations are different as far as like gender roles and physical appearance and things of that nature. So we're going to kind of dive into that, and so I wanted a good visual for that, which is the lovely drawings that I have behind us.
My 9-month-old drew these for us. So kind.
Yeah. So I drew them and they're terrible. So here they are. So we have notes kind of examples and things that we took. So as we go, we're going to talk about what we wrote down on our sticky notes, and then we're going to pin them up here. And then you'll kind of have a good visual for kind of the differences between men and women in the Mormon church.
Okay. So we'll trade off kind of sticky notes. I have a couple here for as long as we can. Spoiler alert. The first one I had written down, the priesthood, is one of the biggest things that set apart men from women. The priesthood in the Mormon church is this like right for men to hold. You have to be ordained as a priesthood holder to receive this
special power
from God, authority from God, I would say, as a missionary. It's what makes the Mormon baptism the actual correct baptism and the only way that somebody can enter the kingdom of God. So I'm going to throw the priesthood up here next to the brain, I guess, because it's all in your head, right?
But so we have two different color sticky notes. Not to hold up gender stereotypes, but this is all the colors we had. So we'll just, priesthood, only men can have it. The church will tell you, the Mormon church will tell you that women can access priesthood power to kind of make you feel better about it. But yes.
Very selective.
Okay, so next one. This one is one of my favorites. This is a quote from a prophet from a while back. His name is Ezra Taft Benson. He's one of my least favorites. So he gave a conference talk that said women are divinely ordained to 3 things: homemaking, motherhood, and companionship. There you have it, folks. There are 3 roles of women right there. So that's beautiful, isn't it?
Beautiful. All right. This one comes from an apostle who... so the Mormons, they have a quorum of 12 apostles. And this was one of the apostles that was like really impactful for a lot of people, myself included. Boyd K. Packard was his name. The head of the family and the breadwinner was something that he taught that men should be. This was a really big kind of thing for me, because in our family, I have never been the breadwinner. Jordan has completed more college than I have. I am still working on a degree right now. So Jordan has always made more money than I have. And now I am technically the homemaker of the family because I do most of the cooking, and I quit my job so I could be a stay-at-home dad and take care of our little baby. So as far as typical gender norms go, well, we have never fit into that role or into that mold.
No, we have not. We have not. So that's a good, like, this is the standard here. We have breadwinner, homemaker, motherhood, and that was traditional gender roles.
Yeah. Working the 9 to 5 and staying at home, taking care of the kids, and being pregnant.
Yes, that too. This one comes from the temple. Do you want to talk about this one?
Sure. This one actually changed recently in the temple because there's a lot of complaints. So in the temple, men covenant with God to hearken unto him, and women covenant with their husbands who hearken unto God. So I, as a man, get to hearken unto God's word, and Jordan, as a woman, gets to hearken unto my word. So
I don't get to go to God
she
myself.
doesn't even get to go to God herself.
I have to submit to my husband and then listen to what my husband says. So
that's always fun.
Literally in the temple ceremony, it was changed last
very recently. Yeah.
2020 it was changed. I
think 2019.
2019 maybe. Super, super recently. And so that always bothered me because that's literally in the, that's part of the marriage ceremony of the temple. So there you go. Submit to your husbands, y'all.
Submit to your husbands. This one played a big impact in my life because it ended up that I served 2 whole years continuous without ever returning home in a foreign country because Spencer W. Kimball, one of the former presidents of the church, taught that every able young man should serve a mission. So, because of that teaching and that culture, I was afraid of social ramifications and other insinuations of consequence if I weren't going on a mission. And I guess I could say before I left the church that I went on my own free will, but now looking at the kind of outcomes that would have befallen me if I hadn't, I could say with a good certainty that I was very persuaded into doing it.
Which is very common, mind you, for a lot of young missionaries.
Some people even get bribed with promises of cars or school tuition or things like that. I was lucky enough that my parents were willing to pay for my mission. So I didn't end up paying $10,000 of my own money to go on a mission.
Okay, so as we go into this, I hope you start to see like kind of a pattern emerging. Some of these are really simple, just things that I've pulled out over the years that I'm like, no, I don't like that. So this is one of my favorite ones. George Albert Smith, prophet way back when. The gentler sex is women. We're the gentler.
Gentler. Yeah. Jordan doesn't pull punches.
I don't.
Let me tell you.
This will get worse. Just wait.
Yep. This one comes from the For the Strength of Youth pamphlet that they give to all youths. This one says, avoid extreme hairstyles. My whole life I wanted to have long hair, and this is the first opportunity that I've gotten to grow it out as much as I have. And I have received a lot of ridicule from people that are in the church because this is considered a extreme hairstyle. And this is something I've wanted to do for as long as I could remember. As a missionary, I was not allowed to do it. I had to keep my hair short and tidy. As a student at BYU Idaho, I also was not allowed to do it because you have to follow by their standards, and grooming standards go along with the For the Strength of Youth standards. So finally being able to have my hair the way I actually want it was such a nice thing.
Something as simple as the length of your hair.
Yep.
But this also, I wrote this down too because this also applies to women. Especially like in the temple, there's this kind of more cultural idea that if you have colored hair, like if you have like pink hair or purple hair or something like extreme, if you will, if you have hair like that, there's like question about whether or not they should let you into the temple because of your extreme hairstyle. Now, I used to have pink and purple hair when I was a senior in high school, so I rebelled against that rule. But something as simple as hair color, I should not keep you out of the house of the Lord, but
I digress. Okay, this might get us into a little more deeper waters. This was also from Boyd K. Packer. He shared a very special talk in the 70s, I think it was, 70s or 80s, in General Conference, which is a conference that all of Mormondom has twice a year. The title of the talk was something to the effect of The Little Factory or something like that. it's colloquially known as the little factory talk because of how traumatic it can be for a lot of people. It likens the reproductive system of men to a factory. And he taught that the little factory is not something to be tampered with because you could speed up the production. So that is to say that male just experiencing personal sexuality is not a thing that is allowed, because there can be some sort of malfunction, or it can lead to an addiction or things like that. So just like normal sexuality and
It's restricted.
yeah, is restricted. And I remember having
Nice placement.
I remember having Sunday school lessons about how, science will teach you that masturbation is okay and is natural, but that's not what God says. So literal science denial going on in order to keep this from being obsolete or even like something that should be taught. Anyhow, but that is not unique to males. But let me tell you, every single general conference, pornography or anything like that will come up at least once. It is such a big thing because they want people to bridle their passions, and they want people to, it's just another way that you can repress people.
Behavior
and
control.
Control their behavior.
Yeah. Let's see. This is one of my favorite quotes that I just found today, and it's quite disturbing to me. Apparently other people had heard this. I had not heard this before. So this was new to me. Heber C. Kimball, I think no more of taking a wife than I do of buying a cow.
This is in reference to taking plural wives, because that's something that they did at the time. So when he was taking another wife, he would think no more of it than purchasing cattle.
So that's fun for women.
So that's fun. Now we get to the interesting part of the video, because these were the only things that I could find really that bugged me, or were sort of oppressive to me, because this is a church that is, as a white heterosexual cisgendered male, this church is a good place for me to be, because there's not a lot that I end up missing out on or being deprived of. So we're just going to keep going with Jordan, and I will
Because
pop
I've got
in
lots.
with my comments or things like that.
Okay, so some of this, what I'm going to get into now, is based on the little pamphlet that they give teenagers. What is it, 12 to 18?
11 or 12 and up.
And so they give them this pamphlet that tells them how they should live their lives, including how they should dress. And so I'm going to go into a little bit of what the dress standards are for women. And these apply to not just young adults, but you carry these into your adulthood. So this would be the expectation for adult women. No short shorts or skirts. Okay, so this qualifies as anything above the knee. Nah.
Yep. Any length that wouldn't cover the garment, the temple garment, would not be allowed, even, or it would be discouraged strongly. You would be sent home from a church dance if you were wearing something that were too short.
Yes, and that happens. Shoulders must be covered.
Porn shoulders.
Porn shoulders is what we
Seeing
call
her bare
them.
shoulders really gets me going.
But no shoulders. Let's see. Cleavage is an absolute no-no. Nothing low cut in the front or the back.
Can't see the back. Apparently, one of the prophets, was he a prophet or an apostle, taught that nobody looks good in a backless dress.
Yes. That was in the For Strength of Youth pamphlet in the 60s.
Oh, yeah, that's what it was.
Nobody looks good in a backless dress. No shirts that don't cover the stomach. So that's special.
That's a no-no. Can't see the tummy, because
Can't
that
see the
could
tummy.
turn somebody on. Apparently.
No crop tops.
Yeah. And then a lot of the justification behind this is that it will distract men. So
Yes.
women can't be or dress how they would like, because it might distract a man and cause him to sin.
Only one pair of earrings. Okay, Gordon B. Hinckley, who was the prophet of the church when I was a little kid, he gave a conference talk where he said more than one ear piercing in both ears is immodest. So you can only have one set of ear piercings in both ears.
People will use, your body is a temple as a justification for that one and tattoos. But this wasn't really a thing up until the 90s when Gordon B. Hinckley became the prophet. So.
And then fast forward a little bit later to when Thomas S. Monson was prophet. Thomas S. Monson was prophet of the church for the majority of the time that I was in the church. Yeah,
2008 to 2018.
Yeah. So he talks about modesty a lot. The church really harps on modesty, right? So he gave a conference talk where he talked about like musicians and artists and like popular celebrities and things, and talked about dress fashions of the day and why they're immodest. And so he said in his conference talk that dress fashions are styled after skimpy clothing. So don't wear anything that a musician or an artist or a celebrity wear, because that's skimpy.
Yep. I guess it could also be construed that if you're paying attention to these artists or celebrities or whatever, that you're being influenced by them, and that's a bad thing by association.
True. Yeah, that could be another way to look at it. Overall, they say this in church all the time.
Cringe.
Modest
Absolute cringe.
is hottest.
Absolute
okay?
cringe.
That is like the pinnacle of Mormonism when it comes to clothing right here. And then goes right into what McKay said earlier. Our dress affects the thoughts and actions of others. This was Tad Arcalister. And so this is exactly what all of this is based on. And so when we talk about things like porn shoulders and things of that nature, there was a apostle. What would you call him? What is down on the jokes?
He's an apostle.
An apostle, okay. I don't know why my brain was telling me that was wrong. So he said that if women aren't careful about what they wear and if they aren't following these standards, they become walking pornography. Specifically for men. Walking pornography. So toxic purity culture, right?
Yep.
So this is the whole reason. This is the whole basis for all of this, is that women, by dressing in this fashion, can protect men from having impure, unholy thoughts, essentially.
Yep.
So that's just really disturbing. And then more on, this kind of goes with this, but more on the roles of women. This was from, I want to say it was recent. They were talking about women and how valuable women are and their contributions, and they want women to participate in their council meetings. And then M. Russell Ballard makes sure to say, don't talk too much.
Yep.
Just get on your way.
And that the priesthood holders have the last say when it comes to women ministering their volunteer position, their calling in the church. Regardless of what they decide to go with, the men, the priesthood holders, have the last say. And that is final.
Okay, let's see. This one I threw in there because I think it's important. This could be technically on both, but they do highlight it in the youth pamphlet that they give to the young adults. Homosexual and lesbian behavior is a sin. Okay, so that's a serious sin. Not just a sin, a serious sin.
Mm-hmm. Toxic.
And this is another quote from M. Russell Ballard that I just loved to add because, okay, so set the scene. You're watching M. Russell Ballard, and he's like, how old is he? In his 70s at least?
70s or 80s.
70s or 80s, this old looking white dude. And he's at a young single adults conference, which is for 18 basically and up who aren't married yet.
Something.
And so at these kind of conferences, frequently the questions are about, well, what can I do to get married? And why haven't I gotten married yet? And I feel so bad that I haven't got married. And so this was M. Russell Ballard's advice to the women at this conference. Don't wander around looking like men. Put on a little lipstick now and then and look a little charming. It's that simple.
Yikes. But don't go too far because then you become walking pornography.
Exactly. Back to roles. Also from M. Russell Ballard, he's like, we got sexist red flags going up all over the place.
Yeah. Former car salesman.
Yeah, he's a special one. So when he was talking about the important contributions and the roles of women, right? One of the things he said is you have to be careful as a woman to not assume a role that isn't yours. That is of the priesthood, leadership, men, all of those things. Don't take on roles that aren't yours because that belongs to men.
Yep. As a man, you would never be told something like that. You basically could never assume the role that's not yours as long as it was falling under the umbrella of male gender role.
More into gender roles. This one was one of my favorites. Have your kids and have them early, and don't limit the number of kids you have for selfish reasons or personal reasons, is what he said. This is Ezra Taft Benson. So don't limit the number of kids you have based on selfish or personal reasons. People always ask us, why do people in the church have so many kids? This right here.
An actual prophet taught that.
This
president
is why.
of the church. From the pulpit.
If you don't want more kids, presuming you only have one or two, you're being selfish? Really? This is taught at the pulpit, y'all. And have them early. Don't enjoy being married and
don't learn,
get to know your spouse.
Know each other.
And, develop a firm foundation before you have kids. Have kids and have them early. And if you don't have enough, you're being selfish.
So silly.
It's another special.
Well, and then they'll tell you nowadays that it's not between anybody but the couple and God.
The Lord.
But, the prophet is the mouthpiece of God, and he's telling you to have as many as you should without being selfish.
Was he a prophet? Was he speaking as a
like
prophet at that
God.
time, or was he speaking as a man? Okay.
Let us know in the comments. Definitely say that he was speaking as God's mouthpiece.
Last two are about women in the workplace. Going back to, we have our head of the household here, right? The breadwinner. If a woman, this is another Ezra Taft Benson. He's a little gem. If a woman works outside the home, the family will suffer in such instances as spiritual growth and progression will be hampered. So now, if a woman works outside the home, for spiritually hampering the family, is what the centerpiece of this talk was. That if a woman worked outside the home, the impacts go much further than just herself. It impacts her spouse, it impacts her children. And then my last one, this is a very near and dear one to me when it comes to women's roles. Of course, as a woman, you can do exceptionally well in the workplace. You're damn right. But is that the best use of your divinely appointed talents and feminine traits?
Just icing on the cake. Icing on the misogyny cake.
And make sure we say feminine traits, because feminine
is indicative of a woman.
Inherently means you stay at home with your kids. Because to the church, that's what that means. Those are feminine traits. Not all the other amazing things that feminine traits are. It's that you're a mom and you stay home with your kids. That's feminine traits to the church. That's what's celebrated as feminine traits in the church. Which, is that a part of feminine traits? Sure. But is it the only part? Absolutely not. So, yeah. If you work outside the home as a woman, is that the best use of your divinely appointed feminine traits? I don't know.
So we can paint a pretty nice picture as far as the bad things that guys experience when they're in the church, and the nice extra heavy things that women get to experience when they are part of the church.
And let's be clear, this is our experience. This is not to say that men who are in the church only have these 5 things that they struggle with, right? This is specific to McKay and I. There are ex-Mormons who might not struggle with some of the things I have up here. There are ex-Mormons who might not struggle with some of the things that McKay has up there.
There could be many more for either of these things, but on the whole, the thing that a man like myself who's heterosexual and cisgender identifying is going to be far fewer things than on the other side of the spectrum.
And when we talk about women in the church, a lot of times the phrase goes, the invisible labor of women, because women have all these things that half of these things are just ways that we should dress, right? And half of these things are our roles in submitting to the men in our lives, all priesthood leaders, not just your husband, and your role as a mother, and that's it. And so we have all these expectations that sit upon women that are very prescribed and very stupid. And so I feel like as women in the church have a lot more that sits on our plates and on our shelves. And as I was doing this, as we were preparing to shoot this video, I was just writing all these things down, and I was so frustrated with myself because for the longest time I was convinced that this was a church that was somewhat progressive somehow and respected women and valued women. And that's just not the case. It is blatantly obvious, even with the current prophet, and Mormons will argue with me till the cows come home that he's a champion of women, but let me tell you, he's not. And so, doesn't matter if it was 20 years ago or if it's now, the premise stays the same.
And they teach that the things that prophets say are eternal, they're scripture. So these things don't just get to go away, especially for what they can't pick and they don't want to be cafeteria Mormons, right? They can't pick and choose what things get to stay and what things get to go just because they think it's unsightly or whatever. Some of the things I've seen recently have been even like scrubbed from the church, like things that Boyd K. Packer said have been scrubbed from church resources because they want to just forget about it. Well, guess what?
Same thing with Ezra Taft Benson. They have, the two of them were so problematic for a variety of reasons surrounding race, the LGBTQ plus community. And so the church does a fantastic job of not wanting to present some of this narrative by creating barriers to accessing discourses and journals where these kinds of things were written, obtaining historical documents that paint the church or things that the prophets have said in negative light, and getting a hold of those and shoving them in a safer in the vault and never to be seen again. And so this is just kind of a visual example of what the differences between men and women can be in the Mormon church. And a lot of people ask me why I say the church isn't a safe space for women. This is why.
Exhibit A.
Exhibit A. And I don't even say anything else. I mean, this sums it up quite nicely.
Yeah. This is what we wanted to share. This was all of Jordan's idea. And I'm over here writing my things down. I'm like, what the hell? You have so many things over there. Not even like realizing, oh, that's kind of the point. So
well, these are just a few. There's a lot to choose from. Yeah. These were just the ones that
I had
came
to tell
to
her
mind.
to stop because I didn't want to go on for too long, which we already kind of have.
We've taken up 30 minutes of your time. So if you're still here, we love you.
If you made it to the end, you're amazing. We love to have so many people that are interested in what we have to say because sometimes not even we are interested in what we have to say.
So we're so grateful if you're here. If you're new, make sure you subscribe. We come out with new videos where we aim to do it weekly. That's our goal. But, life happens. So
we're trying to make up for time that we've missed out.
Yes. We do have other social media. You can follow us on Instagram. I post on Instagram in our stories every day so you can follow along with us and what we do kind of in our regular life.
And TikTok is our main one right now, but we'll link those in the description down below. If you want to get in contact with us, if you have some sort of an inquiry, you can leave a thing in the comments. We do
or send us an email. That's down there too.
We also do live Q&As on TikTok pretty often. You can go to our bio on our TikTok. We'll tell you when the next live Q&A is. So
you can come ask us questions and talk with us and hang out. We
yeah.
also have merch in the link in our bio as well.
Yep. So thanks for joining us, and we will see you next time.
Thanks, guys.